more. But let's get into what is this playoff push. We still don't know who is going to be in these final top six. We have two teams that have clinched already in the Thorns and OL Reign, and there's spots 3 through all the way through 6 being determined by a very narrow table that's been pretty narrow all year round. This first match kicked things off in this Wednesday slate of games was North Carolina Courage hosting Washington Spirit. Washington Spirit coming away with the 2-1 win this week on the road against North Carolina. Trinity Rodman, Julia Rodar getting the goals for Washington Spirit. Meredith Speck making things interesting with a goal for North Carolina Courage. Lisa, let's just start with the picks. Ooh. I think you and I were feeling pretty good once we saw that this was a win. We were like, yes, we both chose Spirit in this one. It's feeling good for Lisa and Sandra this week.
We're winning right now. We're on the winning side of things right now, Sandra. Yes, it was fun to watch this one. I actually really liked this match. Washington takes the head-to-head against Courage now. They move into third place in the standings, which that's what it was. It was a fight for third for Washington. And this was really, really good for Washington Spirit. I think Aubrey Bledsoe had a lights out game. She looked fantastic on the pitch. She saved a few that were probably going in. Before we give too much praise to Washington and everything they did, I want to say that North Carolina looked a lot better than they did on Sunday versus Houston. The defense was tighter. The attack had more weapons in it. When they got the ball, it was Lynn Williams and Jess McDonald, going. Jess McDonald, she had a game. Sandra. She was really fun to watch. But so many of the times, I think when Courage got the ball and they were pushing in the attack, it was just Williams and McDonald pushing. And there was a huge gap between the midfield. Where's Davina? Where's Speck? Where's Denise O'Sullivan pushing up and kind of closing that gap to pick up any scraps that come out? And maybe Lynn Williams and Jess McDonald are just too fast for the midfielders of North Carolina Courage. But I need to see more support from the midfield behind the forwards. But I want to kind of get into this one. The first goal for Trinity Rodman for Washington Spirit was actually awarded an own goal off Abby Urseg, Carolina defender, which is rough because I thought this was a really nice shot by Trinity Rodman. It looked like it was going to go in no matter what, but it took the deflection. So it's awarded an own goal. But I wanted to give that one to Trinity Rodman. I did. What did you think?
We'll see. We'll see if it's still getting reviewed. I know there's a lot of different angles to take a look at sometimes when it comes to the camera work that takes place during some of these NWSL productions of the matches. So perhaps it's getting reviewed and double checked. As of right now, on the league's standings and the league stats, it is credited to Trinity Rodman. So who knows? I know during the call it sort of looked like it took the deflection and kind of went in. I would love for it to stay that way, but I'm sure something like this will probably be reviewed and double checked. But if it does stand for Trinity Rodman as it does on the site right now, I mean, it's just another credit to this player just having this phenomenal rookie season for the Washington Spirit. She's absolutely integrated herself in this Washington Spirit side as a constant threat, as really a staple for, rolling out their starting 11s. And when she's not on the pitch, it's becoming noticeable. When she's not on the pitch, it's like, where's Trinity Rodman? Or it's like, oh, well, what the Spirit can use a little bit more of, it could use a little bit more of Trinity Rodman. And she dealt with some minor, back issues and, picking up a couple knocks here and there throughout the earlier to middle part of the season. But sort of seeing her being able to get more regular starts, being a part of that really dynamic attack alongside Sanchez and alongside Hatch has really paid dividends for the Spirit team this year. And this particular matchup this year with Spirit and Courage has been so entertaining to watch. It's been very, very impressive matches between these two sides when they've gone head to head, and to see the younger team and the Spirit sort of go ahead and sort of take the head to head and be able to, kind of steal that if their tiebreaker does come into play, because it might, because the table is so narrow. Again, it's a storyline that I think the Spirit fans, will probably want to look back on as a silver lining and take with them, because, this franchise, as we know, has been going through a lot on and off the pitch. And
Mhm.
like similarly with North Carolina. So having these sort of these things, these soccer based related things that you could maybe find a little bit of joy in, that might be one of them. That this young team going up against this really
Yeah.
experienced side, getting the regular series, against them in the regular season, and having such a young core in place, go out and do that. So kudos to them on picking up the win.
And really looking like a complete team, from goalkeeper Bledsoe all the way to Rodman and Hatch, Sanchez up top, like drawing fouls. It's a complete unit. It's a complete 11 players on the field. And I think that the community that they've established amongst themselves and the family off the field, based on everything that's happening with the Spirit this year, has really helped them on the field just be in this together. They are one entity as a team. They want to play for their teammates on either side of them. And I think it shows for Washington. And Julia Rotter getting a goal in this match, pretty good one too. Honestly, I think it wasn't struck that well. It wasn't struck that hard, but it was kept down low through the mix of players. And that's what you have to do on a shot like that. You're not going to send a ball through traffic that's got incredible bend on it. You just have to keep it low and put it in the mix. And Casey Murphy couldn't grab that one. I think that was a pretty fun goal too. I like this game because it was scrappy and had lots of back and forth and had the energy and the quick transitions. It was a nice start to the Wednesday midweek matches.
It absolutely set the scene for sure. And we got another good one that we got to get into right now. Kansas City NWSL versus Houston Dash. Oh my goodness, what an event. Kansas City picking up the event. Picking up that win, Kansas City 3-1 over Houston Dash. I am like looking at the scoreline. I'm looking at the players who scored the goals right now. Darian Jenkins kicking things off, Elizabeth Ball, Lolo Vanta picking up goals in this one for Kansas City. Lisa, you picked Kansas City. You get the picks in this one. I went with Houston Dash. Not able to get this win. I just thought maybe they were going to grab it, and it just didn't happen. But I don't know if this was, you can fact check me on this, Lisa, and anyone else can fact check me on this too. I think this is the first time that Kansas City got a 3-0 win in the regular season. But maybe not so surprising in this one, Lisa, is that they had another great performance at home. It is their 6th consecutive result that they picked up in Kansas City. It is something about playing this team in their hometown that it's a struggle to play against them, whether you're looking at a table standings or not, a last place standing or not. This team has made it that when you go into Kansas City, they are going to make it difficult to play against them. And they had themselves a little bit of a statement game to sort of maybe close out their season. I love this role that it looks like this team is embracing right now, where they're like, you know what? That table is clogged. We are out of it. We are trying to play for next year. We want to end this season on a high, swing the momentum in our favor going into 2022. And they are taking points off of top tier playoff push level teams. And it is such a joy to watch right now. Lisa, what were some of your takes out of this game?
It is such a joy. I just did a little bit of research for you, Sandra. Yeah, does look like this is the first time Kansas City has scored 3 goals in a singular match, but they have had 3 or more goals scored against them at least 3 times throughout this season. So they know what it tastes like to be on the other end of that, conceding all of those goals. And if anyone didn't hear Sandra at the start of this recap, I picked Kansas City to win. I won this matchup. Sandra picked Houston, and I'm so proud of Kansas City. Like you said, they're out of the playoff race, but they want to impact things. They want to throw grenades into the standings, into where everyone's bunched up, and just explode things for other teams, make it difficult. They can impose their game on a team like Houston. And I think factor being that this was played at Kansas City's home, Legends Field. But the team that has nothing to lose, they tend to play with a little more heart, a little more blue collar, if you will, just connecting things, putting things together, because you have nothing really to lose. The head-to-head is tied between Kansas City and Houston, which probably won't play a factor considering Kansas City's at the bottom of the standings and already out, but goal differential, this is pretty big for Houston. And KC just spoiling Houston's day. We have to give 2 claps to Darian Jenkins and that first goal that she had. Holy cow, what a strike from Jenkins, the corner of the 18. She got her head up. She did this about 2 matches ago against Washington. She had a beautiful, beautiful ball. This is the forward that needs to be in the NWSL and needs to be contributing. She's a young one, but man, she has a lot going for her. This shot was just beautiful. I think AD Franch was such a great grab for Kansas City. Kiki Pickett, another really young player for Kansas City that had a fantastic game. She had a shot off the crossbar, a few off the crossbar. I think Addie McCain had another brilliant bullet that went off the crossbar. Crossbars were the name of the game in a lot of these matches on Wednesday evening. But at the half, Kansas City was up 2-0. And I was a little nervous for them going into halftime because Houston is the team with a leader like Rachel Daly that can really put fire underneath people, especially at a half when 2-0 is a really dangerous scoreline. But coming out in the second half, Houston put on pressure. Kansas City able to hold it off. PK, this was our first penalty kick we saw of the evening. A foul called against Jane Campbell. Jessica Silva drawing this one. This one was a penalty kick. I'm going to come right out and say that. Jane Campbell didn't get the ball. She took out Silva's legs because we have had some questions for our referees. Sandra, you agree it was a PK, this one?
Listen, you make that kind of contact in the box. Yes, yeah. The goalkeeper's the last line of defense, but that's still a foul when you're taking out the players, when you didn't get the ball and you're taking out the player's feet from under them. And just Jessica Silva with the awareness and presence of mind to say this is happening and actually making that full stretch leap. I love to see it. I need to see more of that in the women's game, honestly.
It's smart. That's smart soccer from Silva. Yeah. That's really smart.
Some people might call it exaggeration, or some people might call it a flop. We don't call it that.
She was falling no matter what. She was falling no matter what. And that's the smarts of her to say, you know what? I'm going
to make sure you see that I'm falling.
Lean into this foul and go for it, because it needed to be called no matter what. Even if she still stumbled and kept going, she probably wasn't going to score from that angle. So,
and you know who else knew it was a foul? Jane Campbell knew that was a foul, because the reaction from this, one of the best goalkeepers, probably top 5 goalkeeper in the league, has the reaction where it's like, yeah, that just happened. I got to get in. I got to get into my position. And prepare for the next thing that's going to happen.
Yes. So, which is so true. That's when you know, when the person that commits the foul is like, yep, my bad. And Lola Bonta stepping up to knock this one in the stoppage time for Kansas City. Lola Bonta, she gets married. She scores a penalty kick. Her team gets a 3-0 win. That girl, go buy a lottery ticket. You are on fire right now. Have a great week, Lola Bonta.
Big week for Labonta. Congrats to her on the recent wedding and the recent marriage. We love to celebrate that type of stuff here. Anytime there's a second to celebrate some joy, we're going to do it. So shout out to her, and hope she's riding the wave of that really, really big week. And it's another big result for this Kansas City side. And Houston knocks them a little bit, in the standings, but just slightly. And we'll get more into that as we close out the episode in terms of where everyone kind of shook out after all of these games. But the third match taking place in this Wednesday slate of games was Chicago Red Stars hosting Orlando Pride. This was another one of those matches, Lisa, that we had sort of circled on our previews and sort of saying, there's a couple of games, there's a lot of games taking place all kind of at the same time on one day. If there's a few games that you have to check out, here's a couple that we're going to be keeping a heavy eye on. And we said that it was going to be these next 2 games that we're going to get into. So Chicago Red Stars versus Orlando Pride. Chicago walking away with the win in this one, a narrow win, 1-0 over Orlando Pride. There weren't a lot of goals in this one, Lisa.
You had that in our picks. You picked Chicago. I picked Orlando. I'm just going to come out and say it. All right, continue with your analysis.
There is absolutely zero hateration up on this podcast when we go through our picks. Look at you, just giving me that dub right off the bat. But there weren't a lot of goals in this one, Lisa, but there might have been a lot of drama when it comes to the discourse around some of the officiating in this one. But Chicago making things happen pretty early in this one, and that's putting it kindly. We started to see, we talked a little bit about this in our preview, Lisa, that we were just both sort of kind of felt that, maybe this isn't really going to come down to the midfield for either of these teams going into a match like this, that maybe we're going to have to see some type of play coming from the attacking lines, whether it was, this continuing evolving chemistry with Watt and Pugh on one side, and then the return of Alex Morgan to form, and Sydney Leroux for Orlando Pride. But Chicago making a statement pretty early, and these waves of attack coming very early end up paying off, with Kalia Watt winning a corner kick, and then that piece played in, and then she ends up getting a goal off of this one in the 6 minutes, sneaks one, and a kind of a cheeky angle really past Ashton Harris, and they have the early lead in this game, and it sort of kind of continues that way a little bit back and forth for these two sides in this first half, and in particular, and it got a little physical at times. Lisa, there was some hearty booing taking place on a Wednesday night in Bridgeview. I was covering this game locally and in person, so sort of taking in the sights and the sounds of this was, again, a little bit delightful. I was like, wow, there's just something about fans in a stadium and taking all this in. But there were a number of times where the officiating was hearing it in this match. There was a particular moment that happened in the 31st minute, and then there was, of course, a penalty that was eventually awarded to Orlando in the 43rd minute for that ended up going their way, and Alex Morgan tried to step up and take this penalty, but missed wide. So we were talking about a very
the fact that you said Alex Morgan tried to take this penalty kick was just worded so perfectly.
Well, listen. Alex Morgan, she's having herself a couple of weeks here. The entire league has been going through it. The players in this league, the fact that they are getting up and going out and playing games of soccer while everything has been happening is a real testament to how they are built as human beings. Quite frankly, we continue to see the player demonstrations taking place throughout all of these matches. They look similar, but they're taking place a little bit differently now. They're taking place at kickoff versus in the 6th minute. So the coming together, standing in solidarity in a full circle at the center circle of the pitch is happening at kickoff versus the 6th minute now. And this is there's a lot of emotions that are taking place. And for somebody like Alex Morgan, who was heavily involved in the recent reporting to help sort of be this supportive person in the story of Sinead Farley and the story of Manashim, that's big. So I say that because you also have somebody like Marta on Orlando Pride. So if you're if there are things that are like that you think might impact your ability to kind of perform in like a high pressure or like high tense situation, why wouldn't you maybe have those conversations and say, this is going to be our person taking the penalty kicks, going forward. So I imagine that those type of conversations already happen prior to your match day. So, if Alex Morgan was coming out of trainings and saying, hey, if we get a penalty kick, I'm taking it, and the team was good with it, hey, that's what they ended up rolling with.
And there's also moments between whistle, penalty kick called, and actual lining up over the ball where she could turn to her teammates and say, I want to take this. I can take this. I can do that. Those are moments where if you think as a player, you're having a great match, you're in your rhythm, you're striking the ball really cleanly, especially as a forward, or if you already have a goal or two in the match, which not Alex Morgan's case, but you can turn to your teammates and say, I want this one. And your teammates usually have your back, especially if you say it with enough confidence and conviction. I wasn't privy to any of those conversations. I don't know what happened, but I probably would have given it to Marta. I'm just saying.
You gotta wonder. I mean, she steps up to take this penalty kick, and the crowd is it's a home crowd for Chicago, and they're not making it easy. There was a lot of swarming of boos and things like that, trying to make it hard for the player to do. So it goes wide, and it still ends up being in the lead for Chicago. And this happens right before halftime. So you wonder if like this is a real opportunity for this Orlando Pride team to sort of level things out and maybe kind of hit the reset button for the second half to perhaps go a different way, and it just doesn't. But let's narrow in a little bit on some of this like first half controversy when it comes to the lack of calls or the questioning of calls moving forward. Lisa, I was there at this game, so me being the local reporter, I was designated the pool reporter for this match. And for people who don't know, the pool reporter is the.
Are you saying pull, Pull?
No, POOL. So swimming.
There we go.
So as the pool reporter, it's
the Chicago accent. We just got to clarify.
Thanks, buddy. So pro referee allows, I think it's 3 questions in reference to the game. So calls, or if reporters or media would like extended information or any more insight to perhaps certain moments of the games, for calls that were made, not made, whatever, they open themselves up to being asked those questions. So when you are at a game, if you are a member of the local media, like privileged enough to actually go and cover an NWSL games, there's typically a designated pool reporter in these moments. So for this match, it was myself. And so I submitted a couple questions to pro referee just to see if there was any extra elaboration or anything that they would like to give for some of the calls. So one of the questions was, what did the officials see during the 31st minute between Kalia Watt and Amy Turner as the 2 players went down in the penalty area? And the second question was, what was the reason for the penalty in the 43rd minute, and what was the reason for the yellow issued to Watt? And so the following answers that I was given was, number 1, in the 31st minute, I saw shoulder-to-shoulder contact and no offense. And the second answer is the penalty in the 43rd minute was for tripping, and the caution that was issued to number 2 was for dissent. So that's not too surprising. When the yellow was issued to Watt in that moment, the penalty is issued, and it comes off of some contact of some bumping that's taking place between Sydney Leroux and Casey Kruger. And the first player over there to contest this penalty is Kalia Watt. So you see the jawing kind of happening in the yellow that's issued. Further yellows are extended. Chicago's bench players actually received a yellow in this match. It was like, wow, it's like this game has everything, it's got a goal, it's got a banger in the early minutes, it's got yellows, and it's got officiating controversies. There's a penalty kick that was awarded, one that wasn't. So it was like truly something to witness on this day. And this was all just in the 45 minutes, but that turns out that's all that Chicago needed. They had a lot. That's ultimately what this game was, Lisa. There was a lot of great movement, a lot of strong attack from Chicago. They left a lot of chances on the table, and they ended up having to rely on some really organized defensive moments to just sort of close this thing out. And Cassie Miller had to come up huge for the Chicago Red Stars team in net for them down the stretch. And she did, and things just ended up kind of working out that way, in which Chicago took this win. And there's one game remaining between these two teams in the next couple weeks.
Yes, this match was a good one. A little questionable calls, I'm going to say. I want to throw my thoughts out there. The first one between Watt and Riley, I believe it was, in the box, that did not get called. The first one you questioned in the 31st minute. Shoulder to shoulder, they're both going for the ball, but Riley gets her leg around Watt and kind of takes her out as last defender.
Turner? Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Amy Turner. Yes. Amy Turner. And gets her leg around Watt, and she takes her out. I think that was a missed call. She does get a touch of the ball, but she takes out Watt. And then at the other end with Krieger, Casey Kruger and Sydney Leroux. Yes, it's a foul. It's a little soft. There's not much of a shove there. And if we gave a lot of credit to Jessica Silva for diving in the KC game, or not diving, but recognizing that she's going to get fouled and making it exaggerated, you got to give the credit to Sydney Leroux in this situation, because it's really similar. There's contact. You're in the box. If you get a little bit off balance, lean into that as a forward, and you may get the call, or you may not get the call in Watt's turn. But interesting, I want to say one thing for the people in the back, for the people that keep forgetting, Watt is really fast. She doesn't look fast. And then she starts running, and she surprises me so pleasantly every single time. I'm like, yes, girl, you are so fast. She gets around Ali Krieger a number of times, like push to the one side, run around the other. But this match was pretty good. A really good win for Chicago. It's tied 1-1 right now. They face off again October 29th. A lot of questionable calls, but that's a big mistake for Alex Morgan and for Orlando to miss that penalty kick. I think that would have changed the game heading into the half completely.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would have been a different 45 for both of them, for both of these teams, if they're walking into the locker room all leveled up on that type of stuff. But yeah, quite an entertaining match for sure. Let's get to the final one in this Wednesday slate of games. It was Portland Thorns versus OL Reign. We were hyped on this one, Lisa. It was the final version of the regular season meeting for the Cascadia rivalry. These two Pacific Northwest rivals going head to head, with really not a playoff perspective type of thing on the line, but there is an NWSL shield that is still up for grabs with these final weeks remaining. Nobody has clinched it yet. And it really is this sort of head-to-head battle right now with Portland Thorns FC and OL Reign, based on the number of games left. Gotham FC is a bit of a long shot to potentially shock the league and possibly run away with the shield themselves. They would need to win all 4 of their remaining matches and need OL Reign and Portland Thorns to drop some more of theirs. So we'll see what happens here. So with this match, I know a lot of people had their eyes on it as it being the final regular season match for these two teams. There's the long history of the rivalry there. As of this season, OL Reign walking away with the head-to-head, already having those 2 wins, and just the 1 point separating these two teams at the time of kickoff. But we ended up watching these two sides play out to a 1-1 draw. And similar to the game that we just talked about, there was a really early moment for this Portland Thorns side to really kind of come out and maybe set the tone a little bit for this match taking place in their home field, where it was a delightful link up between the young attacking core for the Thorns, and Morgan Weaver gets on the scoreboard really early. We're talking 3 minutes into this match, and lovely link up with Smith and Weaver, and they get the early lead. But again, it's a long stretch of time, and we do not see this Portland Thorns side able to capitalize on this really good attack that they were presenting throughout this first half against OL Reign. It was a little bit of a, I don't want to say maybe snake bit, but getting a lot of good looks and just not having the finishing, and going into halftime only up the 1 goal when perhaps they could have been up a few more.
They could have, and they probably should have been. Sophia Smith is fantastic. She is really fun to watch, getting assists, creating chances, her movement. The opening goal from Morgan Weaver was just what Portland needed. And Sandra, we found out after we recorded our preview for these matches that Megan Rapinoe was off the injury report list, and she would be playing for OL Reign. And I know we both picked Portland for this match, and it was a tie, so we both lose. But we knew that Megan Rapinoe, right before this game was happening, was going to be back playing for OL Reign. That didn't change anything for me. I still thought Portland was going to come out on top and win this one. And when Weaver scored in the 3rd minute, I was like, yep, all right, there we go. Let me go get some tea. I'm just going to hang out, because this game, Portland has it in the bag. They're going to keep going. Not the case at all. I think Rose Lavelle had a really nice match for OL Reign. They had a lot of good chances. I think Lindsay Herrera for Portland Thorns is getting better every single week. And that's something for a player like Herrera, who is at the top of her game, who just came off an Olympics, who has been at the top of her game for some time now. To continuously be getting better is really, really impressive. And that shows a lot about the character of Lindsay Herrera, that she is taking each day and each training and each game as an opportunity to elevate herself. Her touches on the ball, her vision of the field, really impressive to watch. This one also had potentially a controversial call in this one. We had our third penalty kick of the night. It was called against Angela Salem. Danny Weatherall for OL Reign took a shot. It was a corner kick, scrum in the box for OL Reign on their corner kick that was happening. It tries to get cleared out. It ends up at the feet of Weatherall, who rips a shot, and Angela Salem running out from her goal, trying to close down the space, gets hit in the arm, in the body, I'm going to say. So her arms were across her chest, almost in an X, or hugging herself as a body as she's running out to close down the space for Weatherall, and the ball hits off her arms. It's called a handball in the box, penalty kick. Megan Rapinoe buries it in the 85th minute or so. So for a late goal for OL Reign, they immediately grab the ball and they start to go again. OL Reign at that point was like, we got to win this match. Sandra, was it a handball?
I don't think it was a handball. I think by definition of the rule, just sort of having and then seeing what happened and what, yes, of course, like there are moments where you slow things down and that's a bit of an advantage. The officials in real time have to make the call as they see it. Mm-hmm. And on this night, they saw that it was a handball, but when you're going back on the footage and you're stopping it at 0.1 slow pace and frame by frame, you're starting to see how things play out. I don't think I think it was a call and the referee was in a position to make the call, and at this moment give the advantage to the defender in the sense where what does a defender do in that moment if you're not tucking your arms in a sense to protect yourself in an effort to not try to extend your limbs and really do get dinged or pegged with the handball. So it was I think a really, really tough moment for that Thorns team to sort of have to kind of have that the extra points snatched away a little bit, and give a little bit of credit to OL Reign. I mean, probably zeroing in on the final 12 minutes or so of this match, watching the substitutions take place on both sides of the pitch, particularly for Laura Harvey. At this point in the game, having somebody like a Megan Rapinoe involved in the game, having somebody like an Ali Watt coming in and getting more minutes with this OL Reign team, just being able to just run down and run at a team. Angelina coming, and having the impact that she did. They were really kind of bringing it during these final 12 minutes. There was a long stretch of time there where Portland had to find themselves in positions to defend away. So to kind of have this moment occur and sort of not have that control of the game anymore, kind of have that in control of the officiating hands, I imagine is incredibly, incredibly frustrating. And once you're level in this type of game, in this type of rivalry, with 5 minutes plus stoppage time left, that can feel like an eternity, Yes. So it's like we got to see a little bit of madness, I think, sort of close out this match, but it ultimately ended up just being a draw. Lisa, and neither of us were able to close out these picks with a win. So you and I are just one. We've got one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the call against Salem and the handball was rough. It's no handball in my eyes. Of course, things are happening quick. There's no VAR. The refs have to take a look at that in the moment and decide. The ref was actually in pretty good positioning to see it if you watch on the replays. But the new rules this year, we actually, the league had set up a meeting for the broadcasters, myself being one of them, and pro referees, which is the referee group and organization that officiates the NWSL matches. And they took us through a slideshow of what is considered a handball and what is not, because as analysts and broadcasters, I need to know what they're calling on the field so I can tell you that over the broadcast. I don't think that was a handball, especially according to their slideshow that they showed us a few weeks ago. One of the common phrases that pro referees use is making your body unnaturally bigger. So if your arms are by your side, your body's a little wider. If your arm is straight out, your body is longer. If your arms are in front of your chest and the ball hits you in the chest, your body's not really getting unnaturally bigger. It was still going to hit you, probably just hurt Salem a little less because her arms took most of the blow, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes teams appeal calls and do things. There's no card in that matter, so not much that Portland can do in that case, but definitely a spicy night in the NWSL on Wednesday evening for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, shout out to all the Thorns media on the call for the post game on this one. Mark Parsons and his media availability, referring to the coaching B license course that Salem is in, and said that in post game, Salem literally learned the handball rule as well. So like, it's just sort of funny connecting these things together, where you're talking about the broadcast team sort of being given a bit of a slideshow from pro referee and learning these things, and Salem alluding to something similar. We're learning about the rule in her B license course, and then having it play out the way that it did in this match. It's a really unfortunate, and it's also really unfortunate because this was the final regular season match between these two teams. So the only other time that we could potentially see another head-to-head for these two teams could possibly be in the playoffs now, because this has been put to